Most people think if you make a lot of money, the relationship will suffer, or they think it'll take time away from them to eat right and go to the gym. Basically, people do not believe that they can have it all. Today, I'm sitting with Rich Clay, who is going to show you exactly how to get it all, creating the wealthiest lifestyle possible. I'm your host, Parker Magee, and I've been able to use the principles that I teach you on this show to build an 8-figure home service company by the age of 25. Let's get into the episode. All right, Rich, first things first, let's get your first sip of Mountain Valley spring water.
All right. You promised me this will change my life.
There's no crack.
I didn't hear crack.
We need him to get better tabs for us.
All right, I'm trusting you on this, Parker. You're saying this is going to change my world. I'm going home and ordering a case.
It will change your world, Rich. Rich, I think it's important first to kind of dive in. You know, I know you very well, very trusted guy, but who is Rich Clay?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am a life and leadership coach. I'm also a pastor. I've worked with people my entire life. That's just who I am. You and I started coaching several years ago, and just going to say this real quick for our audience, because we coached and we had never met personally. And two things I want to tell everybody. Number one, you are a lot bigger than I thought you are. And number two, you're a great looking guy, man. So, and thank you for having me on your podcast. But over the years of working with people, I've found and I discovered through counseling, through coaching, through pastoring, that everyone that had a problem, it was in one of 5 areas. And everybody says, how can you simplify people's problems down to 5 areas? But if you'll listen, I'll tell you 5 things that people struggle with. 5 things that if they can get right and synergistically operate in these 5 will definitely make you a wealthy person. Number 1, everyone wants to discover their purpose. They need to know, why am I here? What is my purpose in life? Number 2, they need a faith or a spirituality to believe in things that they can't necessarily see, feel, or touch. So that you got to have, once you have purpose, you got to have that faith. Number 3, people want to do life with other people. So that's relationships. Relationships are hugely important. Number 4, people want money, because we need money to operate, to function, to live a great life, and to help other people live a great life. And number 5, we need our health and fitness. Because if you have all those other things and your body's crumbling and you're not healthy, what good is it? You can't enjoy the life that you have. So I discovered that everybody has one of those 5 things, if not 2 or 3 going at the same time. And I set a whole coaching program around this holistic method of discovering what the true problem was at the time and then looking how the others affect that.
Which I absolutely love that theory. And we were kind of talking about this before the show. I feel like I've finally taken the step to the diversification and like really trying to build those ideas, which have made, a ton of changes in my life recently. But you said we coached before. It took me some time to actually, there was always very helpful. And what I would tell people is like, if they are looking for, they don't know what the right next step is, sometimes it is useful. I think what were our calls? Like an hour, maybe once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, just an hour once every 2 weeks, like having that discussion with somebody who, is wealthy in my eyes. Your lifestyle is very diverse. Whenever I see it, you're rocking and rolling. Your age, you said 70, right?
I'm 69.
69 and dude is absolutely just killing life, which like I can respect, to the utmost. Still work out every day, still own the morning, run a successful business, coaching other clients. But like if people are looking, and don't know exactly what the purpose is or haven't diversified their life yet, like you're a great resource to obviously have, somebody to lean on to be able to walk them down that path. Which is, you helped me a ton. I still follow your stuff. I know Joey respects the heck out of you. So, it's definitely, I'm grateful to have you on the podcast. I'm excited to obviously give people, something to learn as well, because I know they're going to get a ton of value. I already have, and we've only been sitting here for 15 minutes. So it's been a ton of fun. What one of those 5 do you feel like are most important? Do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, I used to shy away from that because they're so integrated. Interesting. I'm from Fort Myers, Florida. You graciously flew me up here to do this podcast. I took an Uber from the airport to the motel, and I'm talking to my Uber driver because I never stop coaching. I'm always coaching. All right, whether I get paid or not, I'm coaching people, and I'm coaching this Uber driver, man, and he's telling me that his faith has just fallen off. Like, I got no faith. And I said, well, why? And it was because of a relational issue. He and his wife broke up a couple of years ago. And he said, because of that, it's affected my faith. And that's exactly what I believe, is that these 5 things, they're all interrelated and they affect each other. So you can't ignore it, right? So when you and I first started coaching, the thing I remembered is I was so excited to coach you because one of my goals is to have 10 millionaires under the age of 25 that I'm coaching on a regular basis. But I remember you were bent in one area. You were so driven, and it's paid off for you. But I can tell now you're wanting to be more holistic. But to answer your question, here's what I believe. Number 1 is you have to know your purpose.
Yeah.
You have to know your purpose. And that sometimes can be a moving target. Let me explain. So when I first started, I wanted to be NCAA Division I coach, football coach. And I lived 8 miles from Notre Dame University, and I was going down that path. And I was bent on that. Then when I had children, I recognized, my purpose is changing a little. I want to be a good dad too, you know. And that's when I began to realize you can't just be focused on one area. You have to have multiple. But you certainly have to know your purpose.
You said before the episode, rich is not wealth, right? Everybody wants to be wealthy. I mean, that's why they clicked on the title. We baited them into it.
Yes.
Right? What does wealth mean to you?
So rich means, which is my name, rich means a lot of money, and I'm all for that 100%. I really am. I think money can really change people's lives dramatically. But you can have a ton of money and not be wealthy. You can have a ton of money and not be healthy. You can have a ton of money and people hate you or don't want to work for you or think you're just a lousy person, right? If you don't work at relationships. If you don't think relationships are important and all you look at people as a means to get more money, that's going to catch up with you someday and you're not truly going to be fulfilled. But I believe the greatest, most wealthiest people in the world are those that have come to serve. And I'm a spiritual guy. And Jesus said this. He said, I didn't come to be served. I came to serve. And I'll tell you what, as I have studied wealth, some of the most wealthiest people in the world and richest people in the world they serve. They serve other people. They care about other people's interests. And I'm not trying to brag on myself whatsoever, but my wife did the same thing your girlfriend did. She said, who's Parker? Who's Parker? Why are you flying to Fort Wayne to do a podcast? And I said, I'm flying to Fort Wayne to do a podcast for Parker because number 1, I told him I would. And number 2, I believe in him. I believe this young man is going to do great things because I believe in your heart, you don't want to just be rich. You want to be wealthy. And that wealth is going to contribute to a lot of people's success. Your family, taking care of our families is important, right? But I think your friends, your associates, the people that you work with. So that's why I came. So that's what I believe wealth is. Wealth is operating fully in these 5 dimensions so that you can really impact your world and you become an influence in your world. Your world is a better place because you had purpose and you were healthy in these 5 areas.
If you take care of all of them, I feel like they do, again, play part in each of them. They say if you have health, you have hope, right? And having health has definitely made a difference in all of the things that I've done, which, looking at you, I mean, you're the healthiest 69-year-old that I've probably ever seen. what's been a focus there? Like what's the routine look like? What's the like what have you prioritized or why have you prioritized the health?
So I think people are going to prioritize health. One, because guys like you, your age, are getting mentored and coached by older guys like us that have learned the hard way. So back in my 40s, I had some serious health issues, and it's either turn this around or I'm not gonna see my grandbabies, right? So I just got really serious at that point and said, I want to live to see my grandbabies. There's purpose.
Yeah.
I came up with a purpose, and I just really got serious about it. So I'm a 4:30 a.m. guy, so that's my morning routine. 4:30. I try to be in the gym. I'm in transition right now with my workouts, but I did CrossFit every single 5 days a week at 5 a.m. And then I also like to do triathlon training, which is really good for my cardio. And so I've done several triathlons, and my goal is to do a 70.3 as a 70-year-old. I thought that was kind of a cool little thing, for my 70th birthday, do a 70.3 triathlon Ironman. So that's what I do, triathlons and CrossFit type training.
Have you ever, and I'll have to send this to you, it's a podcast episode with Devin Levesque and Jesse Itzler, which you kind of remind me a lot of Jesse Itzler. Older guy, but just like really still just all in on life, right? And I feel like that's the biggest thing. When people think of Rich Clay, they think of someone being all in on life, right? And like that's what you have to be. Again, we're pushing everything forward, not just health, not just the rich aspect or the money aspect, not just the faith aspect. You're literally pushing all of these forward. He talks about a misogi. Are you familiar with the misogi?
No.
It's like one big thing, one big life-changing event that you do every single year that like you can look back on and say, Rich Clay did this in 2024.
Yes.
Rich Clay did this in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any of those moments over the past, 4 or 5? You definitely strike me as a guy that's done some big things in your life. Like what are there a couple things that come to mind?
Oh, yeah. Well, physically, especially because even within the last 6 years, I've upped my game because you have to. There's a fallacy out there that says as you get older, you should slow down. As you get older, you do less. As you do older, you lift less. But the reality, the truth, if you really study the research, is you have to do more. You have to lift more. So over the last 6 years, Parker, I've broken every PR that I can think of. The mile, I ran a half marathon. I did high rocks 3 times. My son and I do high rocks together, which is really taking off. If you know anything about, it's kind of an offshoot, of CrossFit. So those were big, huge life goals. I did an Olympic triathlon last year in Florida, which is half of an Ironman. So yeah, physically, I've been really working hard at that. So I've broken a lot of personal goals of that. Right now I'm starting to train. I would like to, when I'm 90, I would like to break the world record in the 100-yard dash, which I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it was somewhere around 17 seconds.
Oh, really?
I think. I'm not sure on that.
There's the misogi. You need to beat that.
Yeah,
and we need to all come support it.
Yeah, and I got some time to train for it.
Look,
So if the Lord's good to me and my health is good, I'd like to do some weird stuff like that, where you're so old, there's nobody left to compete with. Matter of fact, my son encouraged me with this because I was doing all these triathlons when I first started thinking about health, right? And I was always the last or next to the last, and he would say, hey, you finished? He goes, most people your age are still on the couch. And he said, if you stick with it, you'll get on the podium. So I do have a podium. I had a 3rd place sprint triathlon victory. There was only 4 of us.
Yeah, we literally talk about it, though. It's like taking the action versus trying to get the perfect plan. And half the time, people don't even take the action when you have the perfect plan. Like, just take the action, go do it, right? And then the rest of the trips or the chips will fall in line. You kind of just had this discussion. You recently moved to Florida, right? And you didn't get exactly you didn't move exactly where I think you wanted to from the sounds of it, from the story, but like you positioned yourself down there. You're taking over a church, you're fixing it up, and then probably in hopes to move closer to your son and then eventually open the gym, if I heard from you correctly. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. You're so right about that. I think plans are interesting. You can spend I have a lot of clients that, I've got this big plan to work out this next year. I said, just get rid of the plan and go do something,
Yeah.
right? Action trumps everything.
Yeah.
Action trumps everything. Yeah. So my wife and I, yeah, we envisioned ourselves being closer to our son and grandbaby, and all of those details, they just weren't coming together, you know? And then something opened up that wasn't the exact plan. And I just said, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're moving. We're going down. We'll figure it out when we get there. And I really believe in the theory of what is the next right answer. I might not know what's going to happen in 10 years. I might not know what's going to happen in 5 years. What's the next right answer? And coming about, finding out what's the next right answer is a process. Agreed. I don't think you act unwisely. It is a process, and you do want to get counsel and wisdom. But sometimes if you wait and wait and wait to act, you're waiting the rest of your life. Sometimes you just got to jump in and do something. The first time I did a triathlon, it was horrible. It was horrible. I thought I was going to die swimming, but I finished. I didn't die. I'm still here, right?
Yeah. They talk about like perseverance being like literally a muscle you can build. Obviously, you're coaching a lot of these clients and probably having a lot of these conversations. Like, how has that been for you? That perseverance muscle? Do you feel like you've been building that through all the things you've been doing?
Oh yeah, perseverance is huge. Matter of fact, in one of my side things that I do, we do a podcast called The Warrior Way, and it's just about strong men.
Yeah.
It's about men being men.
Yeah.
And being strong and taking back what has tried to be taken from us, our identity, And perseverance is one of the 5 principles that we teach. We have there's 5 points, and perseverance is one of them. I probably learned a lot about perseverance from my father. And even though I only had him for 14 years, I'll never forget, I was in Little League Baseball, and I wasn't playing much. And I was real discouraged about it. And he said, do something no one else wants to do. And I noticed no one wanted to be a catcher. So I said, I'll be a catcher. So I started to catch, and one day I was going to stop playing baseball and give up on it. He said, just keep playing. Other people will give up on it. So I kept playing, and by the time I was in high school and graduated, I was an all-state catcher and went on and played college baseball, not as a catcher, as an outfielder. But I'll never forget that. It's like at the time, a lot of people are giving up in something, in a business, in a relationship, in their faith. If you take one more day, and then one more day, and then one more day, you're going to be somewhere sometime that the other person, they gave up on it. They quit. They couldn't take it. It's not that I'm so great, and it's not that you're so great, but if we just take one more step, we just persevere. I don't live way down the road. I was so excited to be here today with Parker Magee, with his team, with what God's doing in your life. I was just so excited about that I can serve. I'm just going to live this one day. And if you don't live every day, one day at a time, then you're not present. And if you're not present, you miss life. You're always wanting to be somewhere else. And if you're somewhere else, you're never where you should be. And where you should be is right here, right now. Where I'm supposed to be today is right here on this podcast. And I know it. And I'm going to make the best of it.
2 things. One, that was just absolute fire. We're definitely going to clip that up for you. So that's going to be great. But the second thing is, like, the entire time I was watching you speak, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a do hard things sign right behind you, right? We talk about doing hard things. That's almost exactly in a nutshell of what you just spoke about. Like, you just embraced the situation
Yeah.
of most people don't want to do this, so I'm going to.
Yeah.
right? And half the time you can escape competition. And I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, but I feel like a lot of people typically know the right next step. It's just a matter of, are you willing to say yes?
I think that's true. Uh, I do, yes, but I also think that that's where like my profession comes in. That's like where this podcast comes in. Some people need to be coached through it because they do know, but they need to have that wisdom to help them get through it. But I agree with you. I think people deep down inside, and I coach that way. When I coached with you, I told you, Parker, I don't have the answers. You do.
Yeah.
All I do is help bring them out of you
Yeah.
because they get buried. And what do they get buried under? They get buried under fear, under intimidation, under insecurity. They get buried, right? So a coach helps and says, let's dig them out. No, you can do this. You can build this business. You can make this move. You can run this marathon. So that's what we do. Yeah, I agree.
You talked about your coaching again. Like who's the wealthiest person you feel like you coach?
Wow. That's a great question because two things. All of my clients are successful.
Yep.
And I people go, oh, it sounds no. If you coach with me, you will be successful because I'm the type of coach that I get real, and I have a competitive spirit anyways.
Yeah.
And like, if you're losing, I'm losing. If you're winning, I'm winning. So I can celebrate when my clients are successful. There's a couple though that come to mind that rise above. And I think their attributes are, they're learners. They're learners. So even though they're wealthy in every area, they're wanting to grow in every area. Because you can't plateau. You can't. It's like going back to do hard things every day. I want to touch on that because that is really important. I've taught that principle. I believe in that principle. Do hard things every day can sometimes sound like I need to do hard things because this will make me stronger, and it does. However, what I've discovered, this is a good thing about being my age, is when you don't do hard things, you actually start to die. You die. Because life is not made of comfort. There's an element of comfort we want, but ultimately we were designed to conquer, to do something that's next. And when I live in a retirement area. There's a lot of people in Fort Myers, Florida, that are retired. There's two kinds of people: people that are still living and moving, and people that are looking for comfort. And I didn't move to where I moved to for comfort. I moved there for more activity. I moved to add to my list. So I have discovered, Parker, that when there's not hard things in my life, I'm getting soft. Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. The epidemic of Alzheimer's and dementia and the things that are happening in our country, the health issues that are in our country today, I wonder if many of those couldn't be cured organically. Not all of them, please. Not all of them. Many people have real issues, but how many of them could be overcome organically? By stretching the mind, by staying in the game, by continuing to think and challenge and read and grow.
Organically and intentionally.
Good word.
They say most people make the most mistakes when they become the most successful. I feel like a lot of people come to you. I know I came to you when I started feeling that success. You get a lot of the noise. You're kind of like, hey, I'm who can touch me? Like I have a lot of money, I'm pretty healthy, I have a decent amount of purpose. Like I have a decent amount of faith. Like when they're in that comfort zone, right? What's the first step you're telling them to take?
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up. You and I talked about it on the way over here with one of my other clients. And I told this very wealthy young man, really wealthy. I said to him, you need to enlarge your circle of influence. And here's what I was really saying to him. You're kind of a superstar in your realm, but there's bigger realms. Get out of that. Get out of your realm where you're the man and everyone looks up to you and thinks, and go where you're not. Okay? And don't let that intimidate you, but get out of your world and get into a higher world. There's always somebody doing more and better things. And some people shy away from that. It intimidates them. They don't like that. But I love it. I love to be around people that have done more than I have ever done. They're faster, they're stronger, they're bigger, because it challenges me. And then I look and go, that's where I want to be. I want to be where they want to be. And that's exactly what I told a client. I said, go mentor under this guy that you're telling me you want to be like. Mentor under them. And I know you've benefited from that greatly, Parker. I mean, you've followed a model of success and a person that's done a phenomenal job of taking young guys and giving them opportunities for wealth. And
so they're in the comfort zone. You're telling them the first thing is go enlarge your circle.
Get out of your comfort zone. And the way you get out of your comfort zone is by being uncomfortable around people that are better than you.
It's almost funny because everything we're talking about is just continuing to build, right? It all plays hand in hand.
It does. It does. They're integrated. Everything is integrated.
So I love that. It seems like everything is kind of just spilling back over into the different buckets.
Yeah. And here's one on spirituality that a lot of people don't think about. And I coach strongly on this. Just like these 5 are integrated, we as a human being are integrated. We're not just a body, okay? We have emotions. So we have feelings. We have anger, right? We have anger. We have sorrow. We have grief. Those are emotions. Those emotions have to be exercised. They have to be healthy, all right? And in my coaching, I'll go there. I'm not a therapist, but I will go there. But we're also spirit, meaning we have this faith factor that we do things based upon. It's not always the facts. It doesn't always make sense to other people. But inside of us, we believe this is what we're supposed to be doing. So if we don't integrate all 3, if we don't become tridimensional, we're missing out on something. There's people that are just all physical.
To kind of go back on that, what's the single biggest wealth killer you feel like you see in people?
Whew. Single biggest wealth killer, probably what I mentioned earlier, that their world is too small.
Yep.
Their world is just way too small, whether that be what they want to accomplish or whether that be who they want to serve. I see no one too low that I'm not willing to serve. I see no one too high that I'm willing to serve. So expand your world. I love being around young people, especially young men. I just love it. I thrive on it. But I also sat down with a guy 82 years old the other day and said, tell me about life. Tell me about the things that I'm going to face. Tell me. And man, he just started sharing with me stuff that was just so enriching. I want all of those experiences in life.
Jesse Itzor, the same guy I said that you remind me of, says the same thing. He's like, I love being around young, hungry guys because he's like, what it does is it shows me energy.
Yes.
He's like, they have that child in them, right? He's like, it shows me energy. It gets me excited, right? But I think to your point, enlarging your circle and putting yourself in these different rooms, right? You can go get the wisdom from the 82-year-old, right? You can go get the excitement from the young guy, right? You can go get the fitness from maybe the middle-aged guy, and then start building these habits, right? And then the same habits that build you will in turn build the wealth that obviously you're going to create. Right?
Absolutely. You're really becoming whole. And I believe in that. I believe in being a holistic person. And some of the best advice I got from a mentor, I had a mentor who was about 80 some years old years ago. I was probably in my 30s. He looked just like Colonel Sanders, man. It was great. And he told me one phrase that I'll never forget. And he said, "This too shall pass." I was like, wow. And basically what he's saying is every problem in your life will pass. And the problem that you had a year ago, you don't even think about today. So don't get too down and too low about a problem, because it's going to pass, and then there's going to be another problem. That changed my life.
Well, and this kind of piggybacks off of what you just said, because I'm sure we're going to get into it. Do you feel like you've ever had any of those, one of those 5 individual verticals stripped from you? And what was it? And like, how did it make you feel? Because it sounds like that's kind of something similar to you just said. Something bad happened, and he's just like, hey, it's going to pass. Like, that vertical is going to come back, right? Was there something that's ever been stripped away from you like that?
Yes. And then I think there are things that are out there that we all want that we haven't obtained yet. So in many aspects, what happens, and this is good stuff right here, in many aspects in your pursuit of wealth or your pursuit of anything, you're going to have some relational struggles. And I think the things, looking back on my life, that were the most difficult is when I couldn't fix a certain relationship, or when a relationship, we were talking about that on the way over. What happens when you have to let somebody go from your organization or your business? Or what happens when there's conflict? Or what happens when you're falsely accused? What happens when you feel like, man, that wasn't fair, right? And so for me, I would say the area that has hurt the most is because I like it when people get along, and I like to be liked. And when I've not been able to do that, that's the thing that's tripped me up the most. And I've had to learn how to get over that and accept it and just realize that's just life. And you are not going to have, that's not going to be perfect. And you're going to have to accept that. And you have to evaluate yourself and say, did I do my best? And if I did, then I let it go.
Which that plays, that double backs on a lot of what we talked about prior to filming this episode, of just when things maybe aren't going your way, or maybe people are saying different stuff, or the delusion is setting in when you're doing something that you solely just have so much purpose in, and you're going to try and achieve, and other people are maybe looking at it as if it is delusional, right? And just the ability to kind of just separate that and say, I'm going to keep moving forward, and they're either going to get on the bus or get off of it, and that's up to them. But again, I have a strong enough purpose that, like, I will continue going no matter what.
Yep. And you said the key word is purpose. Once you've identified your purpose, then you keep moving on that train. You don't get off that train. And the people that get on with you, they're in it for the ride of their life. And the people that get off, it's probably good that they got off. Because you can't have people that don't believe in your purpose and your vision. And I'm talking about as a leader, okay? So a leader of a business, leader of a home, leader of a team, that team has to get in line with their coach and with the mission of that team. And so it's better for them to get off than to stay on and hold you back. And there's ways of graciously letting people off the train, there really is. But it's true. You've got to have alignment, and you've got to have the people that are really in one with your purpose. And I look for those people. I interview my clients. They interview me, but I interview them. I don't take on everyone, because if they don't want to go somewhere, then I'm not the guy, because I want someone that wants to go somewhere they've never been before. That's really what I'm looking for. I want to take somebody like, what is this, Star Trek? I want to take people to somewhere they've never been before, whether it's in one of these 5 areas or all 5 of these areas. Not just in life, not just in business, but in every area, they're going, wow, not only did I get there, I'm enjoying where I've gotten to.
When you first kind of interviewed me, I was kind of like, what? Why is Rich asking me the questions? I'm like, I was coming to him to pay him monthly. I'm like, I thought this guy was just going to take my money. But again, built a lot of respect, for you as well by you having that conversation and just being like, dude, look, I'm not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I may not coach you, right? But I also may, depending on where I evaluate you're at, which I think is obviously a big deal as well, coming from a coach that is going to take your money. It's not something they're just going to take it. Like, are they giving something in return? Do they feel like they can add value? To your point, like, can I serve?
Yes.
Right. And if I can serve,
Yeah.
like, then we can find a purpose for it.
Yeah. And there's a lot okay. And this is really answers a lot of the question you did too. There are people you're in relationship with. There are people that you work with. There are people that you learn with, but there are people that you have chemistry with.
Yeah.
And man, when you've got chemistry, you got it going. So my clients, I've got chemistry. I mean, it's chemistry, man. I can't explain the type of bond that we have. So that's not going to be with everybody, and I have to accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, if you're aligned, going back to even an organization, right? If we're all aligned as an organization, if we're aligned as a coach and a client, like, that's when we can get and obtain results, right? Which is ultimately the end goal, right?
Yes, very much so.
So what, I mean, I got to know, like, what's the one you're most passionate about? The one, is it just purpose? Where's the 5 ideas? What's the one you're most passionate about that you're like, dude, I could go on and on and on? Because I know you're obviously big in the church, right? I know you're obviously big in the fitness. Like, what's the one you're most passionate about?
I will tell you this, that these are somewhat fluid. So sometimes, like I said, I was forced into being passionate about health.
Yeah.
Through a crisis. I coach people that are in relationship crisis. So they're passionate about it because they don't want their relationship to blow up.
Yeah.
Right? So oftentimes, the one that we're really focused on the most is the one we've probably neglected the most. And we know it. And something's surfaced. Something's come to the surface. All right? So maybe a hugely successful businessman hugely comes home and realizes his wife is like fed up, right? And he goes, whoa, I've given you everything.
Yeah.
Well, not what I need. So now relationship becomes important. So I would say the ones that I've been most passionate about has been the area that I've kind of lacked. And I've looked at it and gone, man, I'm doing good in all of these areas, but Lisa and I need to take time for my wife because I haven't been giving her the amount of time she needs.
If one of those 5 verticals grows too tall, is the fix to bring the other verticals up to that level, or is retraction the key?
That is really, really good. I have never even thought about that, but I'm going to process that.
Which I love, because I would always ask, or you would always ask me questions in the coaching, and I would say, I don't know. And you said, Parker, stop saying I don't know. Say, let me take some time to think about it, and then I'll get back to you on an answer. Because again, we do know, right? Like, and you're going to take time to think about it, and you're going to get a very good answer, I would imagine, which I could respect.
And even that little interlude of giving me time to process, I would say, I want them all to come up. Yeah. Because I'm not a backwards guy.
Yeah.
So it's a great question. I've never been asked that question, and I appreciate it. But yes, I would say I want them all coming up because that's what I do. I'm never going, hey, let's back off on this so that we're equal in this area. I never do that. I was like, no, let's come up here. Let's get this one up.
It has to be integration too, right?
It does.
I just listened to a podcast this morning. I talked about, he's like, there's no such thing as work-life balance. He's like, it's work-life integration, right? He's like, if you can go, and be like really excited about the business, but then come home and, again, to your point, be like really good in that relationship because you're so excited about what you did in business. And then because you went and had a really good relationship conversation, maybe you went and did your hobbies, right? A big thing that I always see is like sometimes I don't see like these entrepreneurs that I was looking up to like have these hobbies that are like they're really invested in, which it's like, I ride my bike, I mountain bike a lot. It's like when I get off that, I'm like, let's go. Right? I'm ready to work harder. Like I'm ready to get more invested in the relationship. I'm ready to do all of these things like at a higher level because like I had time to recharge, which I think is, also extremely important as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we haven't talked about, and it may be another podcast, but one of the ways that we help coach these 5 areas is by identifying people's values, because people have different value systems. Okay, so what's fun to one person is maybe not fun to another person. So I really like to dive into what do you value. Some people are extremely family oriented. Okay, my wife is extremely family oriented, and I am family oriented, but not extremely. And my family's broader. So I consider a lot of my clients family, although they're not blood. Okay, so, certain people are relationship is everything. Certain people are money is really important. So you're going to have to identify your values. And I don't judge values, by the way. If that's your value, that's your value. I'll coach from the position of your value. I don't judge that. So I don't judge a person that says, hey, making money is my number one goal. I don't judge that. I don't know what that's going to lead to, but I don't judge it.
Eventually it all comes back around, right?
It does.
It was always funny because you would, sometimes we would start on one conversation and then I know you would start looping back and then you'd get to what I knew you were trying to get from the get-go and I'd be like, damn it.
Exactly.
Got exactly what I knew Rich was going to tell me.
I just needed you to say it.
Rich, you've obviously built a ton of wealth, right? If you lost it all tomorrow, what's the first thing you would do?
Are you asking me wealth is my definition?
Yes.
I will never lose my wealth. I'll never lose it because I'm so focused on the integration of what makes me get up in the morning. These 5 things are not 5 things I just do as a checklist. They're the motor that drives me. I've got to invest in a relationship every day. I've got to have a hard thing every day. I've got to have purpose. I've got to have a time where my faith is carrying me. So, I can't even think about ever losing that.
Which I love because you won't even put it out there. Rich, we're gonna get to wrapping up the episode. We've been going. I think you've given people a ton of value. Like if they're not gonna sit through this full episode, I mean they're crazy, right? Like this is sometimes something you would charge people, $200, $300, $400, $500 plus for, and they're getting it literally completely for free. This is all for free, right? What's the last thing that you want to leave with somebody who's maybe stuck in the comfort zone, who maybe doesn't have a ton of purpose, who maybe is extremely wealthy but doesn't have the great relationship? What's the last thing that you're going to leave them with?
I'm going to leave them with this. You can have what you think you'll never have. You've given up on wanting something because you think it's impossible. If you change your mindset to believe that there are good things for you, there really are, you will step over that boundary and you will move into a life that you've never experienced before. But there's a blockade in your mind that's saying that you can't, you won't, or you're not worthy. And they're all lies. They're lies in your head. And what really the lifestyle that you want to live, the holistic lifestyle that you want to live, it is possible if you believe.
Guys, Rich just literally gave you it all for free right now. you can have it all. He just showed you. Start building it right now. We'll see you on the next episode.